1 quintillion way. Okay, that's a lot of zeros. I wasn't actually going to say all the zeros, but that's a lot of zeros.
Okay.
From a decentralized location, this is the Crypto Effect.
If God had
All right. Hey, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Effect. I hope everyone's been having a good week so far. It's been a crazy week in crypto, obviously. We've got a lot to talk about. I am Brad, and I'm here with Warren, aka Warble. And so we've got a few topics for you this week. We're going to talk a little bit about Tesla, and then some off-chain topics about Ethereum gas prices being through the roof. So to kick it off, though, we're probably going to talk about Forbes, blockchain, and your finance, some interests of Warble's here. So let me kick it over to Warble, and you take it off here.
Yeah, so it has been an absolute crazy week. But what a crazy day, actually. I mean, some of the news that came out today with Elon Musk is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But just wanted to quickly mention one of the things that kind of caught my attention this past week was the Forbes Blockchain 50. One of the projects that I follow, Ocean Protocol, was actually mentioned in the Forbes Blockchain 50 of 2021.
Really?
So I was pretty excited to see that. I think that project has a lot of potential, and it was neat to see something. I've been following the project since the very beginning, and so it was really cool to see them make the Blockchain 50. And they did mention too that their partners, one of their partners, Daimler, was also listed as a leading company that is leveraging distributed ledger technology. And I will put the the link to the article on Forbes Blockchain 50 in the show notes, but definitely check it out. It's pretty cool, worth taking a look at. Another piece of news that caught my attention was the Yearn Finance exploit. I'm sure a lot of people heard about this. But my understanding is that nearly 14 million had been drained from one of the day vaults on Yearn Finance. And if you've been following DeFi, starting probably the summer of 2020, you would have heard a lot about Yearn Finance. They sort of kicked off the DeFi craze when they released their distributed finance products. And so they've been around a little less than a year, but it made news this past week when one of their vaults had actually been compromised, and again, $14 million had been drained from that. So
Wow.
the hacks in crypto continue to occur, and I think they're just going to continue to occur, and it's going to be worse as obviously the value of these currencies continue to increase. I thought that was notable, though, because Yearn has sort of paved the way for a lot of these DeFi projects, and to see them get compromised like that.
So yeah, Yearn Finance is actually one of the largest chains on the blockchain. It is currently sitting at $32,000. You can go to CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap, and you can see Yearn Finance YFI currently sitting at $32,400. And it's one of the largest out there. Next to Bitcoin, it's got a pretty high market cap. It's worth quite a bit here. You said it was just under a year old. It looks like going back, it started off around 5,000. So it is sitting at some serious highs right here. But if you go to the article on CoinDesk, you could see where the attacker actually got away with $2.8 million. And Yearn Finance lost 11.1 out of their vaults.
Yeah, so the developers or the engineers, I guess, my understanding is that the engineers at Yearn were able to freeze the multi-sig wallets, helped to mitigate a lot bigger
loss.
Would have been a lot bigger loss. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I was just reading. This is actually a really interesting article, but he was able to somehow fluctuate or create some sort of fluctuation in the price of DAI, which allowed him to exploit this pool, which he was then able to go and do a swap on the transaction and exchange the YFI into Ethereum and then cash out. Supposedly there was a big dip. Yeah, there was like a $4,000 dip there. So you can see where that this kind of probably took place, was that giant dip that occurred. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, it really is unfortunate.
Mhm.
Yearn has done a really, has really, like I said, has trailblazed a lot of that space, and it's always hard to see any cryptocurrency company get exploited or hacked. But still, nonetheless, it's never nice to see that happen. One of the other things I wanted to mention is, obviously you guys have probably seen the news, but big investors continue to pour in to cryptocurrency. So I've been following Grayscale. A lot of what they do has been pretty intriguing to me, since they've been throwing so much of their assets under management and the money that they hold back into the crypto space. And so they actually added another $47,000, or I'm sorry, 47,000 ETH, which would have been worth about $76.7 million over the past 24 hours. And Grayscale Investments also tweeted on February 6th, just 7 days since reopening their trust, they added 104,990 more ETH, which was worth $180 million. So
Wow.
Ethereum is getting absorbed as well by the massive institutions, and I think it's going to continue to happen. And if it does, I really can see ETH's price continue to soar, and perhaps it hits 10K by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, Ethereum obviously being ranked at number 2 is one of the top looked at. It's still one of my all-time recommended. I will always probably recommend Ethereum. It's just such a great coin. I've been investing in it for a while now, but there are predictions of it hitting 2,000 by the end of February, and then of course just continuing up there. It's the second most adopted next to Bitcoin. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm actually still I'm a little surprised it's not even more than it is right now, but it'll definitely get there. It's moving.
Yeah. And did you want to talk a little bit about Elon?
Yeah, let's talk about Elon. So the big news this week, I think, or as of this morning, from what I understand, is Elon Musk has now adopted Bitcoin, or should I say his company Tesla has adopted Bitcoin. Through their cash reserves, they have purchased $1.5 billion in Bitcoin, and they are going to start accepting that as payment for purchase of their vehicles. So now you can buy a Tesla vehicle with Bitcoin.
That's just insane.
That
I
is
mean,
insane.
you kind of wondered if you would think about it, and you'd be like, okay, when will this happen? And I kind of always questioned whether it would happen, but here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so this people are really looking at this as I wouldn't call it a fork event, but it's a changing of the guards. There is going to be a before Bitcoin and an after Bitcoin, and this is the event. This is the event that's going to start telling people it's okay to buy Bitcoin. And
Yep.
now this is going to create mass institutional investment, acceptance, purchase, holding. And I think it's just going to moon from here. I know you hear that a lot, but this is really an event. 1.5 billion. And then not only that, but now they're saying it's worth our car. You can purchase it with, you can purchase our cars with it.
Right.
That's
You can actually
huge.
put a tangible value to it, something real world that you can touch, that you can actually
Right.
go and buy. So the thing is, I wonder how many other, I think you had kind of touched on it a little bit, but how many other institutional investors now are going to look at this and say, okay, now we feel comfortable going and investing something, putting
Well,
our cash in.
they needed someone to take their first step. It's always that, that one person, that outsider, or that risk taker, billionaire or hedge fund or whatever it is that says, hey, we'll adopt this, we'll take the risk. And it's going to be Tesla and Elon. And no doubt in my mind that this is just going to be a continuation from here. No one wants to be first, and no one really wants to be last.
Right.
So I think this is going to continue.
Oh, yeah, absolutely think it will. And, shout out to Michael Saylor. He, I believe it was about a month ago or maybe less that, he made a statement that, you know, I'll share my playbook with you, and show you exactly how I bought so much. And now you've got Elon Musk, taking a gigantic position in it.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as the announcement went off, I was checking Bitcoin last night, just looking at my next purchase price, and it was at around, I want to say 39 something, and there's been a lot of speculation around Elon Musk because of his recent tweets, and I think everyone's paying attention to what he's tweeting now, primarily because of Dogecoin with the his pumping of Dogecoin. But overnight, when I woke up this morning, it was at 40, like 43. And as of tonight, this evening, on February 8th, it's even higher than that. It was surging at just crazy 46.8. So, it just continues to rise.
It's going to hit 50 by the end of the week.
More than likely, yeah, yeah. There is a lot of speculation that this is the jump that's going to create that 100,000 speculation that's been going around. So
I
no doubt in my
definitely
mind.
think so. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, no doubt. And there, unfortunately, Elon is also, I think, taking a little bit of flack right now from social media because, I'm seeing people that, that were kind of criticizing him for, you know, pumping Dogecoin
Hmm.
and, getting people to buy, getting people to buy Dogecoin and because he was pumping it. And
Hmm.
in kind of on the other side, he was like, put this massive investment down on Bitcoin, so it's kind of like, and people out there are a little bit sour about that. And, I did hear somewhere that Twitter's servers were overwhelmed with people trying to remove their, their tweets about Elon, their negative tweets about Elon before he actually went and bought the Bitcoin. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but I
So he
think
was
it's
basically just teasing the fact that they were doing it, and he was letting people know without letting them know. But I'm definitely going to be paying attention to what he does next. That's for sure.
oh, for sure. Yeah. He's worth following, no doubt.
Hmm.
So, on to the main topic. One of the things I think is worth talking about, super high gas fees. And I mean, I've seen gas fees, I've seen people posting gas fees of a couple $100. I think I even saw somebody post a gas fee of like $300 or $400, some ridiculous number. And I thought it was worth talking a little bit about what are gas fees, and, what is Ethereum gas for those people out there that, they typically open up, maybe they use MetaMask or they use Trust Wallet or they use a different type of wallet, and they're paying these massive fees. But what are they actually, why are you actually paying these fees? And what does that actually mean for the Ethereum network? Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the Ethereum gas prices, just like you have the United States dollar or you have one Bitcoin, it's broken up into denominations. To back up a little bit, Ethereum is actually broken up into denominations of units called WEI. So you have 10 to the 18th power makes up one WEI. The reason that that you need to kind of talk about the way and how it breaks down with Ethereum is because that's how that's how that gets formed. So one Ethereum consists of 1 quintillion WEI. Okay, that's a lot of zeros. I wasn't actually going to say all the zeros, but that's a lot of zeros.
Okay.
So then that brings us to GUI, okay, and this is the Ethereum gas unit. So 10 to the ninth power in WEI forms one GUI, okay, and Brad has that on his screen there, so you can see 296 GUI, 279, 247.
Hmm.
So GWEI is the that's most commonly used when we're talking about Ethereum gas. Okay, and this is how we start to formulate what the gas prices are going to look like. What exactly is what is Ethereum gas, right? But a gas is a unit that measures the amount of computational effort that it'll take to execute certain operations on the Ethereum blockchain. And that's the important aspect of this. How do these gas prices start to get formulated? So I'm going to use an example here. Everything in Ethereum is a smart contract, almost everything. And within that, it's written in something called Solidity, which is a programming language. And each line in that on that smart contract is an operation. So each and every line of code in Solidity requires a certain amount of gas to be executed. Okay, so gas is simply measured in units of gas. That, like, say I send a transaction on the Ethereum network that costs some discrete amount of gas, but it largely depends on the number of instructions that are in that smart contract. But a sender of the transaction must specify a gas limit before they can submit it to the network. MetaMask, which many of you may have used, I know I use it a lot. MetaMask also sets this for you as well. So you can specify this number if you want to for the gas limit, or you can let MetaMask do it for you. And it can be changed under the advanced settings in MetaMask. But be careful, because if you do change it and you set it too low, then what can happen is there may not be enough gas to cover all the instructions in the smart contract. MetaMask, actually, to get a little technical, MetaMask simply calls ETH estimate gas on whatever Ethereum node it's talking to. So again, remember that this is a smart contract. It's on a blockchain. The blockchain is comprised of Ethereum nodes. So here's a hypothetical scenario. And this is a very simple scenario, but suppose we want to just add two numbers, and that contract must do the following actions. So I'm storing 10 in a variable. Let's say this operation costs 45 gas. Then I'm going to add two variables. Let's say that this costs 10. Then let's say I want to store the result, which again costs 45 gas. Now, suppose the sender specifies a gas limit of 120 gas. So the total gas that would be used by the miner to run the computation on this would be 45 plus 10 plus 45 is 100 gas. The fee owed to the miner, assuming one gas costs 20 GWEI, is 100. So that's the number of computations. That's the cost of the computations times 20, which is the gas cost. So that gives us 0.000002 ETH. That's theoretically what it should cost us to run that through the Ethereum blockchain. Okay, so this kind of illustrates the slow transaction is $58, average 66.62, and the fast is 69.46. The transaction fee in this case, as you can see, is 0.034902. Now I can come over here to my advanced tab, which you can see here, and I can actually set, this is the current GWEI, right? 144 is the current gas price. Ethereum MetaMask is actually setting the gas limit on this to 258,523. And they're estimating that based on the number of instructions in this specific smart contract. Now, you might look at this and say, well, that's a lot to pay for, $58.54 is a lot to pay for this smart contract.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing is I can go back, and I made another illustration here. I can go back and you see this is the same smart contract. Slow is 474, average is 543, and fast is 566.
So $40 difference almost.
$40 difference. And you might say, well, how did you get that so low? Well, if I go to the advanced tab, I can actually change my gas limit to 21,000 instead of what MetaMask estimated at 258,523. Now, here's the thing, and also this is with a gas price of 135, but here's the thing, is maybe this isn't enough gas to cover the number of instructions in the smart contract.
Yeah.
So what happens then is, let's assume for a second that I go through with it, I confirm it, and I go with the 21,000 gas limit. What can happen is the miners on the blockchain start to transact it, but I didn't actually pay them enough gas to get through the entire smart contract.
Okay.
So what happens is it gets rejected and it never goes through. But I've also spent $4.40 for a contract that got rejected. It's important to note is that in this example here, if I chose average at 66.62 or even fast, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to end up paying that much. What can happen is, if the smart contract or the miners did not actually take that much gas to execute the contract, I'm actually refunded what's left on that transaction. And I took another screenshot of that here, and just so you could kind of see. So the amount actually that I transacted in ETH was 0.27, right? Here's the interesting thing. The gas limit that was set by MetaMask was 192,585, but the actual gas that was used was 134,301.
Oh.
So I actually didn't pay, I ended up paying less for that contract, even though MetaMask came back and said, well, this is going to cost you, say, $66.62. So I think one important thing there is, well, actually there's two things. You can, if you go to the advanced tab, you can adjust this gas limit if you know how big the contract is. That's the catch. Oftentimes I would probably, I would recommend letting MetaMask estimate that. And it can estimate that high a lot of times, but it doesn't want to reject transactions. And then the other point here is that you will get refunded for the gas that you never used, just as I did here in this one. I didn't actually use 192. That, excuse me, that was an estimate on gas limit. So that takes us to, how do you get around this? I mean, if you really want to use decentralized finance and you want to use smart contracts, how do you get around these entirely ridiculous gas fees? That kind of brings up the second part of this discussion, and that is Ethereum's layer 2 scaling solutions. And so Ethereum, there's two parts to Ethereum. So you have the main Ethereum chain, which is considered layer 1. That is the main net. And then you have a layer 2, which allows decentralized applications or dApps to handle transactions off the main Ethereum chain. So you're not actually, when you interact with an application or a decentralized application that's on layer 2, you're actually not interacting with the main Ethereum chain. You're interacting with possibly something that a third party has set up, but it's not actually the Ethereum mainnet. So a couple of the benefits for the layer 2 include, obviously, faster transaction speeds. You have highly reduced gas prices because you're not putting everything back on mainnet. And generally speaking, transactions are submitted to these layer 2 nodes instead of being submitted directly to layer 1. So I'll give a couple of examples of layer 2 solutions in just a second. But the important part of that is, layer 1 is the Ethereum mainnet, and layer 2 is typically a separate chain. It could be a side chain. It could actually be a state channel. It could be it's an entirely separate application, generally speaking, that has the capabilities of talking to the Ethereum mainnet. So what layer 2 instances typically do is they batch these transactions and they put them into groups before they anchor them back to the Ethereum mainnet. After which they're secured to the layer 1, which is the Ethereum mainnet, and cannot be altered. You cannot make a change to that transaction. Once that transaction is written to the blockchain, it's there forever. And so what they do is layer 2 actually, when they group these or they batch these, that's when they're put back on layer 1 and secured. So there's different types of layer 2 solutions. You have what are called rollups, and then under rollups you have what are called ZK rollups, and you have optimistic rollups. What some of the viewers might recognize, one of which is loop ring. It's relatively new technology, but the interesting thing is it doesn't work on Ethereum's mainnet. It's actually a layer 2 application. So the fees in loop ring are a lot smaller than what you would find on a mainnet application, and the transactions are very fast. You have other things like Starkware. You have Aztec 2.0. Those are actually ZK rollups. And then, of course, you have things that are under optimistic rollups, which another one that's pretty well known is Fuel Network. Some people may have interacted or used Fuel Network. And those specific applications, again, fall under rollups. Some of the others that you may have heard of, which fall under the state channels, layer 2 solutions would be Connex, Raiden, Purin, and statechannels.org. But I think the one that everybody's probably interacted with is Plasma, which is another layer 2 solution. Plasma is interesting because that's a separate blockchain. It's an actual separate blockchain that is anchored to the Ethereum mainnet. So Matic, we've talked about Matic before, and I've mentioned it. I think I mentioned Matic, I may have mentioned it in the last show. And OMG Network is another Plasma chain. And then under that, we have what are called side chains. So a side chain is actually another, it is also a separate blockchain, which runs in parallel, and they operate entirely independently of the Ethereum mainnet. But probably the most interesting thing about side chains is the fact that they have their own consensus algorithms. So remember when we talk about Ethereum, the Ethereum mainnet or layer 1, we're actually talking about proof of work. So we have millions of mining machines they're actually doing proof of work on the Ethereum mainnet. But on these side chains that are running parallel to mainnet, they're actually doing their own proof consensus algorithm. So they can do proof of authority, they can do delegated proof of stake, they can do Byzantine fault tolerance. So there's a few different, well, actually quite a few different consensus algorithms, but those are just a couple of them. But the one I wanted to mention, and I recommend people checking it out, XDAI chain, and that is xdaichain.com. So it's XDAI chain.com. So the fees to transact on XDAI are very low. It's like a penny, I think, for a fee to make a trade over on XDAI. So XDAI is basically an Ethereum virtual machine side chain that uses a different consensus model. So this actually uses a post-DAO model, and it introduces its own staking token called Stake. And so you can actually go out and buy and invest in Stake. And the price on Stake has actually increased substantially since it was released as well. And then aside from side chains, we have hybrid solutions. And then, of course, there's some notable layer 2 platforms. I did mention XDAI earlier. And here's why I think XDAI is important. You have Gnosis, which uses XDAI sidechain. There's a platform that runs on Gnosis called Mesa, which is still under beta. I actually did check that out. It's kind of neat, but it is under beta right now. It's very similar to Uniswap, except that the biggest difference here, of course, is that Uniswap runs on the Ethereum mainnet, layer 1, and Mesa is actually running on a layer 2, which is the XDAI sidechain. A really cool project too that runs on XDAI sidechain is HoneySwap, which also is is pretty cool. I checked this out recently. Um, Very fast, low fees, nowhere near the fees that you're going to pay on the Ethereum mainnet. So I saw fees on HoneySwap, which again is a decentralized exchange. It's built on XDay. Fees on HoneySwap are around 0.001 cent per transaction.
Mm-hmm.
Comparison to what you're paying on Ethereum's mainnet, it doesn't, you can't even compare the two. And then, of course, another really popular protocol, and it's getting a lot of attention, is the perpetual protocol, PerpFi, which is PERP.FI. This also uses XDay sidechain. It's a decentralized perpetual trading platform. Lately, you can do options trading, leverage trading, things like that. I think the point here is that it's not just the Ethereum mainnet that you can use. I think you're going to start to see more layer 2 platforms that are going to get released. I think XDay is making quite a few moves, and I think it's going to be more and more popular as time goes on. And I think in 2021, we're going to start to see even more of these layer 2 solutions, especially if Ethereum continues to garner the amount of attention it is right now with DeFi. And another important point here is this isn't even talking about alternative blockchains. So, we've got things like Cardano, which you and I both have invested in, Polkadot, but I think Polkadot, Cardano, those are two big notable names right now that are getting a lot of attention. Polkadot's gotten a lot of attention lately because people are looking at that as a possible, a really viable alternative to Ethereum.
Right.
Whether or not that happens, that's anybody's guess. But anyway, to wrap that up, I thought it was worth talking about how the Ethereum gas works. And that may have been more technical than
it was pretty technical. If anybody is interested in reading about the technical aspect that Warble was talking about, you can go to ethereum.org developers. And so all that data is in there. And it gets very technical.
Yeah, it's an
talks about a lot
important
of stuff.
concept. It's a very important concept, I think, to grasp, especially if you plan on using Ethereum. And
yeah, gas is definitely a problem. I tried to swap over, what was it? I can't remember. I think it was like sushi into another coin, and of course, it had to run through Ethereum. And I was trading 100. Well, it was probably like $90 worth. The gas was 130.
yeah,
I was like, how am I having to pay more than the actual trade in gas?
right. And
Obviously, I
that's
didn't do
why.
it.
Well, and that's why, again, I would recommend, and that's a great point you bring up. So if you're going to trade, I highly recommend taking a look at HoneySwap, look at Perpetual Protocol if you can use Perpetual Protocol with your region. But look at HoneySwap and take a look at, there's other layer 2 protocols that allow you to trade as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also heard 1inch was a little bit better at pricing than both Uniswap and MetaMask. So I haven't actually tried it.
It is. 1inch is interesting because it is a aggregator. So yes, 1inch is a decentralized exchange aggregator. So it's not. So what it's able to do is it's able to go out to Uniswap. It's able to go out to all the other DEXs. I don't believe it touches any centralized exchanges. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's all decentralized exchanges. But it goes out and it actually grabs the prices from all those exchanges and gives you the best price, which is how it's able to do that. It's a great tool. I've kind of stuck with Uniswap mostly, but I do think 1inch is it's a great option.
All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So to kind of get going, what something a new coin I actually learned about today. I'm just gonna end it with this. For me, is a coin called Decenter, DECENTR. This is a coin that's actually looking. They've already got an extension for Firefox, but this is a coin that's looking at um, protecting your data online as value. So I haven't gotten a lot into it, but that was a real interest of mine because it actually uses this extension to protect you on the internet.
Hmm.
And then it actually puts a value on it. Now I haven't looked at exactly how the value on it works, but this was a recommendation I saw right before the podcast came on. The value of the coin actually got pumped over 100% in the last hour that it was recommended. So it's something I was wanting to look at because protection online is, of course, a huge thing for us computer nerds. The way that we've always protected ourselves online is by using VPNs and using browser sources like Tor or Onion to keep us our information from being stolen and taken and used against us, or used to sell to other people, which is really where the value is. They use the data to sell, and so this actually protects you against that. It's a really interesting concept, and so I'm going to dig into this a little bit more, maybe make a recommendation on it next week. But this is something to look at for future reference. DECENTR. So that's my last one-off recommendation for this episode.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen a little bit about Decenter. I haven't dug into it too much.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to mention to close out the episode is this Thursday, a company I've mentioned in the past, Masari Crypto, is actually going to be launching their Masari Enterprise. And they've announced that they're going to be featuring a live demo during that launch event. So I believe they'll probably post that. And I think it's going to be cool to see, where Masari takes things. I think Masari has some of the best data in crypto, and I think they're doing a lot of good things.
Yeah, this is actually really pretty interesting. If this link is correct, crowdcast.io, is that right?
Yes.
Crowdcast.io, Masari Enterprise. So you can register for this. It's in 2 days, 16 hours, February 11th at 12 o'clock p.m. So learn how the top firms in crypto leverage Masari's latest product to master crypto information flows. All right, I'm going to have to sign up for that one.
Yeah, I did sign up for it. It'll be interesting to see what they release. So a lot of what Masari is, a lot of the information that they're providing ends up being a very accurate look at what's probably going to happen in the industry. And
Yeah.
so I like I said, I highly recommend their product.
Yeah, this isn't a paid advertisement, but you can go to Masari.io. I'm looking at it right now, and it does have a lot of information. Of course, they've got all the different crypto assets that you can look at, the DeFi assets. Then they got, you can look at charts, of course, but it looks like what they do is they come out with a daily briefing or a weekly briefing, which looks like they kind of go out what Warble was talking about and go and look at what new projects are going on and what the coins are doing, and kind of give you their take on who's doing the best work next, type stuff. So pretty interesting. They do have it is free, and they have the pro version for $24.99 a month.
Yeah, and you can sign up for their newsletter, which is completely free. And Ryan Selkis usually writes the intros to the newsletter, and then they have a short snippet from some of the news that's happened in the past day. So very timely information, and highly recommended.
All right, very cool, awesome. Thank you, Warble. Good info.
All right, cool. Well, I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, well, that wraps it up, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. We will see you all next week. If you have any recommendations or anything you want to know about, leave them in the comments. Thank you, guys. See you next week.
Thank you. Subscribe.
Yep, subscribe.
Later.